Good afternoon, I'm Rachel Ong,
And I'm Horshing.
and this is Channel Z News.
In today's headlines, we take a look at how policies regarding tourism and hospitality impact Singapore. Since 1965, tourism was effective in creating the much-needed employment in Singapore, a newly independent nation who urgently needed to expand and develop her economy. Over the years, the tourism industry has successfully grown and developed to become one of Singapore's largest service sectors, contributing 3% to Singapore's GDP and generating more than $12 billion in tourism receipts. Singapore is a country that thrives on the business aspect of tourism. Tourism is also an integral and internal generator in improving the quality of life of all Singaporeans. The many economic advantages brought about by developing and expanding tourism in Singapore and the various impacts on the lives of her locals are the main reasons for policies to be designed to maximize the advantages tourism brings. However, it must be noted that policies designed must be carefully thought of and relevant to Singapore's status to ensure its effectiveness, better impacting her economy as a whole. One such policy the government has implemented is the Singapore Tourist Promotion Board, or SDBP, set up in 1964. It was established to make tourism a key economic pillar of Singapore and to promote Singapore as a tourist destination. SDBP has three key areas of focus: strengthening Singapore's position as a leading convention and exhibition city in Asia, developing Singapore as a leading Asian leisure destination, and establishing Singapore as the services center of Asia. Now let's take a look at what people think of this policy.
As reported, the positive side of the policy Singapore implemented to promote tourism and hospitality is that GDP will rise significantly as tourism accounts for 66% of Singapore's economy. So now let's find out how Singaporeans feel that tourism can boost GDP. Hi, excuse me. I'd like to ask you how do you feel that tourism can actually boost Singapore's GDP?
The influx of tourists causes increased consumption as more people will spend in the various sectors of the economy. Foreign investment through this will also eventually increase as stimulation in the Singapore's economy due to tourism will attract foreign investors. These factors will then be able to shift the AD curve to the right so that the GDP of Singapore will increase while keeping the general price level constant.
Okay. But do you think that there will be negative effect that the policy may bring to Singapore, like demand for export or affecting the production costs in the export industry?
Of course, there will be, as most tourists will usually buy our local products and bring it back to their countries. This will decrease export demand. Also, with the tourists buying all the goods back to their own country, it will increase our production costs as they manipulate our Singapore's exchange rate, making it higher, thus causing export to be higher and less competitive.
Thank you. This is Yuan reporting.
Welcome back to Channel Z News. In the mid-1980s, Singapore's government decided to adapt a strategy to promote tourism, as there's a 3.5% year-on-year decline in tourist arrival. The desire for conservation was also a response to the government's previous idea of westernization in Singapore. The provision of certain Western values were perceived to be opposing to the Asian values of Singapore and was a threat that could be countered by the emphasis on the preservation of Asian values, identity and heritage. It was necessary to review her policy in developing tourism, given the fact that the tourism industry in Singapore relies heavily on the Westerners. Even today, United Kingdom remains as Singapore's largest European market, accounting for 41.6% on average of arrivals. In 1986, Ministry of Trade and Industry launched the Tourism Product Development Plan, which devoted US $233 million to redevelop Chinatown, Little India, and Kampong Glam, as well as significant historical sites like Singapore River, Raffles Hotel, and Bugis Street. Moreover, unlike previous policies which cater solely for the tourists. These plans was aimed at creating local cultural consciousness among Singaporeans while at the same time create attractions for tourists. This was essential to market Singapore as an exciting and memorable tourist destination through the uniquely Singapore brand, which positions at the Lion City as a unique blend of the modern world and rich cultures to deliver enriching experiences. Now, let's take a look at what Singaporeans have to say about this policy.
As reported, we can see how these policies diversify our local culture. Now let's look for somebody to find out their view. Yes. What do you think about the policies that the government has implemented to promote tourism and hospitality? And how do you think it diversifies our culture?
Personally, I think that these policies will heighten the interactions between tourists and locals because such policies can actually cultivate mutual understandings and belief between them. And this is very important for a cosmopolitan Singapore. Such exchange and beliefs between locals and tourists can actually thrust Singapore into a tourism world stage through added reinforcement and recognition of such different beliefs. Thank you.
Welcome back. Now let's move on to our third policy. An integrated resort is a casino-based vacation resort. To date, licenses have been awarded to Resorts World Sentosa and Marina Bay Sands. Resorts World Sentosa and Marina Bay Sands are the country's first IR and have begun operation on 20th January and 27 April 2010, respectively. IR is part of Singapore's government strategic project to boost tourism industry, which has been facing intensive competition from Thailand, Hong Kong and even Malaysia, who had considered legalization of casinos in the wake of initiatives in Singapore. Such government policy targets at making Singapore part of the new world and not be bypassed and left behind. The IR comprises of not only the casino, but also all kinds of amenities, hotels, restaurants, shopping and conventions space, museum and theme parks. The IR will change our downtown skyline and transform Sentosa into a high-quality resort destination, making Singapore an attractive and dynamic center for tourism, business and conventions, attracting hundreds of thousands more tourists every year. And now, let's hear Singaporeans have to say on this policy. Due to the building of IR, more job opportunities are created for Singaporeans, hence solving the issues of cyclical and structural unemployment. As people are able to afford more of their needs and wants. Now let's look for some opinions. Hello, what do you think of the building of IR?
I feel that with the building of IRs, they offer more retraining and upgrading workshops offered to the people so that they are better equipped with relevant skills for work, and there's less unemployment, so they are not as afraid of people not paying their bills and people having their car repossessed and their house taken away because of mortgage foreclosures. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Please continue reporting. Thank you.
So another question is, what do you think are the concerns regarding IRs? For example, like gambling and.
I think that IR can actually cause detrimental. I think that IR can cause detrimental social impacts like an increase in gambling addicts, breakdown in family relationships, or perhaps an increase in crime rates. Also an increase in loan shark activities. Loan sharks creating havoc around neighborhood for people doesn't pay out lah.
This is Rachel reporting for Channel Z.
The number of job vacancies in Singapore hit a 4-year high of 50,200 in September this year, reflecting the buoyant state of the economy. The hunger for workers is especially acute in hotel, retail and financial services industries, as noted by Citigroup economist Pete Wei Zhang. Now let's look for person to interview. Excuse me. How do you think job creations brought about by the various policies would impact Singaporeans?
I think that such policies will not only benefit economically but also socially, as job creations would mean an opening to increase our material SOL. And with a stable income, Singaporeans can better achieve their needs and wants. And in the long run, they are able to afford normal goods, increasing the material SOL.
Thank you. This is Sing reporting.